Hello Half-Life Nation, at least those of you who wing foil. This video is going to be about unboxing the new Armstrong XPS Lightweight Wing. Well, that's easy to say. This one is a 7.0. They make it in two sizes, 7.0 and 8.0. First of all, before we get going, I like to think about, why do you even want to do this? These big wings, traditionally, I found them to be too big and kind of bulky, and there's no real waves out there on the lake, so, why do you want to do it? There's two real reasons. One, for me, I think about it mostly, I had a day in Maui where I had a 6.5, A-Wing V2 6.5. I was the only guy who got out to the waves, and I got some killer wave rides. The performance was still there. The second thing is, it gives us something to do on a light wind day, make you more skunk proof. And so Armstrong has spent a lot of time trying to figure out, how do we make this wing to be comfortable to ride and not too clunky, but it's still fun, and that's what this is about. Plus, I got a bonus. I'm going to talk to you about the XPS versus the A-Wing V2. Is it time for you to go ahead and make that decision, that upgrade, or do you keep riding it? With that, let's go ahead and start unboxing this box. Now, I actually had to work pretty hard because I've already pumped up two wings. We're going to pump up a third wing here. The interesting thing is, for each of these wings and products that come out, Armstrong continues to, learn from their experience. It's interesting. It's one of the CEOs in the industry. I guess Army's not the CEO, but he is the founder, who actually does all the disciplines. When you go across other companies, a lot of times these guys won't actually do all the disciplines, and so knowing what their design is going to be is a little bit more challenging. The thing I love about Army is he's out there and he's riding this stuff, all the time. They've also expanded their design team to bring in other people, so it's not all on him. And I'd say one of the hallmarks, get this thing out of here. Whew, there we go. Like birthing a baby. One of the hallmarks of Armstrong has always been the power. For me, most of the time I'm spending some time in Maui, maybe 20 days of wing foiling. The rest of that time is on a lake where the wind is up and down. One of the reasons that I always gravitated more towards Armstrong is, at least in the A-Wing V2, there was a lot of grunt. And so when the wind would be high and low, I'd have that grunt. It would allow me to get up onto plane. Now the trade-off was that wing was a little bit heavier. And so you saw some people like the F1 Strike come out that had a really nice trail behind it. It was a little bit more lightweight. But when you look at other brands, some windsurfers like the boom of, Duotone. Me personally, having windsurfed all my life, I don't need a boom anymore. I don't really enjoy it. But hitting that lightweight but power, it's been one of those things. The A-Wing V2, which is great. We might as well just compare them right now. This is the XPS 4.6. We'll look at that in a second. This is the A-Wing 4.5 V2. You'll notice a couple of things that Armstrong did on this. Good handles, pretty good, right? This was before the industry as a whole went much firmer, but in terms of these handles, it was still, pretty firm for what it is. They have these, which were pretty nice when you're going down that wave face and you go to reach back. Sometimes you grab the strut by mistake, pull it up over your head, and that's okay. But also that does add a little bit of weight. One of the things when you look at this, when it's not, filled with wind, you can kind of see this gap. So you'll notice that this canopy here is a little bit looser, and we'll look what that looks like with XPS. I still love this A-Wing V2. If you're a beginner and you're just getting going and you want to save yourself a couple bucks, if you can find a new A-Wing V2, or even one that's slightly used, and you're getting started, it's not a bad way to go. Now, for those of you who have been winging for a while, you are going to see some performance differences. I'd say if you look just right off the bat, the handle alignments, this one, you can see the different loops going down. I hope you can see that okay. On this one, they went for this hybrid carbon handle, and I like it. So gone are the days where we have the power control bar that we put onto this thing. You just have these handles here. They're nice and rigid, and I found these to be quite good. You'll notice that the angles here are rounded, so you don't have any sharp edges, so if it hits your board. And the thing that Armstrong improved between these two is just a pure weight. This wing, the A-Wing V2, would trail behind me quite nicely. I never had a problem with it. This one floats. I think it's much more like what the F1 Strike was doing for people. It's nice and lightweight. This crosshatch here and these battens enable that there's still power. And you saw how the 4.5 was gapped. Well, look at this one. with no wind, there's no gap. It's just holding its shape, you know, much better. I'm gonna answer the question. I was gonna save it for the end of the video. If you're wondering, if you're a guy who currently has the A-Wing V2, you're getting some days on the water, should you upgrade, should you not? If you're pulling your jibes and you get to the point where you're able to go ahead and rotate the wing around your head, pull it down, maybe every once in a while you get little wave rides, even on a lake where it's just, you know, you're going down with the wind a little bit and you can put it down on your hip, you're ready. Find a good friend who wants to get into the sport of wing foiling and sell them or give them your A-Wing V2, depending on how good of a friend they are. Let's get to the point of the show. Here we have Armstrong, these new XPSs, whether it's Lightwind or not, come in this new style. You know, they used to, and this is gonna fold 3 times when you put it in there. They used to have a different bag that looked like this. This is how the A-Wing used to be in here. And for this one, you'd fold it over once, and sometimes on the biggers, you would do like a 3rd fold, but you know, this is pretty nice. So when you get this from your dealer, buy it from me, buy it from somebody close to you. We'd love to have your business. But you can see the Armstrong ships these things wrapped up inside of your bag. Here you have a leash. So this is a wrist leash. I still prefer the waist leash, and the reason I like the waist leash is because it leaves my hands free as I paddle away from the dock. So a lot of times if I'm in Maui, I got to paddle out a little bit to get to the wind line. If I'm in Lake Washington, I got to go ahead and paddle out to the wind line. I might be paddling for, you know, 10 minutes to get out there. I really do like this wrist leash. It's a nice one. Personally, I recommend most people go with the waist leash because then you can just leave it, you know, trailing behind you. But that fits in there real nicely. That's about it. You know, the XPS ones, right here you have some spare battens are packed inside of this little sleeve right here. Get that open, work it through there. There we go. And so you can see inside of here, these are extra battens. And so Armstrong went down the path of putting battens into these wings to help them stay rigid. And again, you're looking for rigidity, but also load balancing. And what load balancing means is if a gust hits you one side or another side, it's gonna spill. I've had this 4.6 out there when I had no business having 4.6. I should have been on like a 3.0, 3.1, something like that, but it spills really well. And so that load balancing, you know, the battens help with more of the rigidity and the power. You know, the cross panel is what gives you a lot of the load balancing. But you have your extra battens. You know, if you're in light wind and you want more power, you're going to leave those battens in. If you have a decent amount of wind, you're going to take those battens out. I'll tell you a little secret. It spills so well, I never actually take the battens out. Don't tell Army. Inside of here, you're going to get this wrapped up. And one of the things I'm going to show you here that you want to do anytime you have a new wing, this was actually something that Alan Cadiz on Maui showed me. We were out there going for a downwinder at Maliko. It was like probably my 7th day of wing foiling. Shh, don't tell Alan. One of the things he's like, Tim, that's not a new wing. What is it? It actually was this 4.5 right here. And he taught me a tip, and I'm gonna show it to you right now, that you really should do with your new wings when you get it. I'm gonna show you one thing on the valves comparative to the V2. Then I'm gonna pause the camera, I'm gonna pump this thing up so you guys don't have to see me sweat too much. And with the valves, Armstrong between V1, the V2, A-Wing V2, and the XPS, they switched the valves. They used to be here on the right versus the left, no big deal. But they also changed this little connection. And I don't know if you can see that, but this connection point here sometimes would get a little bit off for me. And so I was really happy when they came out with this one. It's really good. I'm able to go ahead and seal that away. I've had great experience with that so far. Let me pause this for a second. I'm gonna pump that up and I'll be right back.
A few moments later.
Wow, I'll tell you what, this is different looking, and we're gonna get to that in a second. Now, I was telling you about Alan Cadiz, and so we were just about to go in the ocean. It's like, Tim, is this the first day out? I was like, oh yeah. It's like, well, you gotta do this. So what you do when you first get your wing is you're gonna go ahead and inflate it about 70, 75%. And you just wanna come down to these edges and go ahead, feel the edges. And what you're trying to do is run your hands along here. You just wanna make sure that nothing got twisted at the factory. You know, of all the times that I've done this, especially with my Armstrong stuff, I've never noticed anything. But it's a good idea before you go out to go ahead and all you're doing is just kind of feeling for wrinkles there just to make sure that everything's great. You don't want to leave shore and then have a situation, you know, where something doesn't work quite so well. After I do that up to 75 and I check all these, it all feels really good. I'm gonna go ahead and deflate it and then I'm gonna pump it up again. But this time I'm gonna pump it up to full PSI. Interestingly, you can see the 4.6 behind me goes to 7 PSI. This one only goes to 6. I would have thought this one would have gone to like 8 or 9. Wait, that was a bit of a work pumping that thing up. I worked up a bit of a lather. Now this is not your typical shape. I've never seen anything quite like this before. So I'm gonna walk you through it. I think one of the first things that you see with this wing behind me is the power batten. They call it the bat tail. And I gotta tell you, it looks like a bat tail. Look at that. I've never seen anything like that before. And you can see right here, it's a little bit more squared off. It is like a bit of a bat wing. I'll hold it up in a second for you. They also have a batten going across down here to provide stability. So you have a batten here giving you that distance. Then you have these batten spots here to go ahead and give rigidity to this tail. And one of the things that allows them to do is have a little bit narrower wingspan for a 7.0. So again, one of the things when you're going with these larger geometries, you want to make sure it's fun to ride when you're out there. And so this is Armstrong's attempt. You can see here, those battens are not in there yet. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in there. When I'm going out on a light wind day, I want to maximize all the bat strength I get. The handles are very similar to the handles that I have on my XPS. Same thing. This is carbon on the inside. It is wrapped and it gives you a nice amount of rigidity. So it's not going to spin in your hand, but it's still nice and lightweight. It has little nice, what you expect from Armstrong, these little touches. Like here's a little touch here, a little padding. So when this comes down and hits your board, it's not going to leave a mark or anything. And the interesting thing, as I hold it, you can see same setup as the XPS in terms of these valves. I really like these valves. I know it might seem strange to focus on that, but I've pumped up a lot of wings, so I appreciate a good valve. And this leading edge is very similar to the leading edge for the standard XPS, but this leading edge, on the airframe here, this is the lightweight Dacron that they've been using, and so it gets PE blended for strength and rigidity, but it's nice and light. And then one of the things that you see here in the actual canopy, is this just Armstrong flexing up and doing a cool design on their black and white? No, it's actually cross panels, and their belief in terms of this design is that by going with cross panels, you're going to get better load distribution. Again, uneven gusts hit you on the other side. If you're on foil and it's a little bit wonky, and I've used handheld wings before where you get hit by a gust and it's like, very strange. Everybody's continuing to progress, but some of those wings I really did not like. Armstrong does a nice job with this kind of load balancing, and that's what this cross hatch here that you see is all about. That's meant to spread the load evenly against the panel and also get to the point where you have, rigidity. I'll tell you one of the other things that, if you go back to the A-Wing V2, look at that window. The window is pretty nice. I think at the time it was one of the good windows. They've continued to improve upon it. And so this window here is a TPU foldable window that really holds up quite well. Most of the time I'm gonna lift the wing above my head and see what's going on, but I actually do use that window quite a bit. Now this 7.0, in terms of from a pricing perspective, comes in at about $1,250, about $200 more than your 6.1 XPS. I think a pretty fair deal. As we go ahead and just kind of hold it and spin it around, kind of get a sense for nice balance. And I gotta tell you, that magical, that feels really light, very light. There's no wind that I have here. And so when I drop this, that's just its natural glide. And the thing that you're looking for when you do this is just like, is it gonna follow well? The day that I got in Maui, I was the only guy out. And that time I was on the V265 and I was able to have that thing go behind me. It wasn't big waves. It was probably like a foot overhead, 2 feet overhead, but I was the only guy on them. So it was amazing. And with the A-Wing V2, I was able to hold the front handle. I've been able to blow that away with the XPS. And I gotta tell you how this feels right now. If I can get out there onto a wave of some sort and just drop this down beside me and bring it back up, this thing feels really light and very manageable for a 7.0. So in terms of like the out of the box, this is what it looks like. Here's the bat wing at the bottom. We get that up into frame. You can see that kind of unique shape. I'll turn around this way too. Hold on. The question is, would Batman have this wing? It looks like the bat wing. So on the back, this thing looks sweet. I can't wait to ride it. It's light, it's manageable. I have a little breeze out here today. And when a little breeze is constituted by I don't know, 8 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour. This thing is designed to get you up in that 8 to 10 mile an hour range. I'm gonna give it a go. What I'm probably gonna go out on is my Armstrong downwind board. Those boards really glide well in the light wind. It's gonna give me the best chance to pick up my speed and go ahead and get up. I really appreciate you guys checking out this video. Feel free to call us with any questions. If you'd like to buy through us, we are a dealer. We'd love to go ahead and sell it to you. If not, just go to one of your regional Armstrong dealers is fine. And I know for handheld wings, a lot of you are brand loyal. Stick with it. Maybe do a demo day if you see Armstrong goes by. For me and my preferences, I like this. I'm not a boom guy. Most of the time I don't even use harness because I like that feeling of freedom after being in a harness windsurfing for so many years and kiting. For me, it's more about just freedom, not having stuff, you know, hanging around me. And so I love these wings because in the environment that I am, I need the extra power that some of the wings will have more flex. And so I don't get that responsiveness. I have to bridge between different gusts sometimes, even on a big day. Even when it's blowing 25 here on Lake Washington, I'm gonna go from 25 to 5 to 0 to 18. And me being able to pump, that's why we do so much work when we're wake foiling on becoming better pumpers, is to do that. Oh, one more thing, follow up, because we did the wing sup board versus a wing board. The other thing, because I got to ride it a couple times, the other thing I loved about the Wing FG board, it's narrower, which allowed me to paddle faster, you know, just getting out to the wind line. Other than that, pretty much the same. I had to adjust my feet a little bit because there's a little bit more buoyancy towards the front of that board than there was on the Wing Sup, but all in all, it's phenomenal. So regardless of what you do, get out there, have a great time. I hope this is helpful. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Come back and check out our content. Give us a call. Come visit us here in Seattle. Take it easy. Thanks so much.